Hello students, today we will continue with the session functions. We will see in detail regarding the usages of functions. Now last session we were discussing about what is a function, what are the different methods, what are the different parts of using a function, like function declaration, function definition and function call and its syntaxes, and we have seen one example also. Now we will see little more description or some more information regarding the uses of functions, as well as we will see some example programs. So first of all, we will see there are two types of parameters that we are using with our function. One is called as the formal parameter and the second one is called as actual parameter. So while describing the previous example itself, I have mentioned about this formal as well as actual parameters. So just for understanding, I will say like an actual parameter is a parameter that is passed as part of the function call. Once again, actual parameters are those parameters that are passed as part of function call. What actual values we are passing for a function. Now formal parameter means the parameter that receives this actual parameter. That means this is the parameter that is written inside the that means that is part of the function definition header. Formal parameters are part of the function definition header, where the actual values that are sent from the function call will be received. So through these formal parameters only we are receiving the actual parameters that are sent from the function call. So that is the basic idea regarding the actual and formal parameters. Now assume that the function, so before moving into in detail regarding formal and actual parameters, so assume that B is a function which is called from another function A. Like inside the function A, I am calling B. Inside the function A, I am calling B. Or we can call like inside the main function, I am calling a function B. Or like that only. In this case, A is called the called function, who is making the call. Okay, or it is called as caller. It is called as the, so who is making the call is called as a caller function, who is making the call, who is calling. And B, that is inside A, B will be called, the body of B is written somewhere else, so that B is called as a called function to whom I am calling. Called function, or it is also called as callee function. So caller and callee. In many languages we will use these two terms, caller and callee. Caller means from which function we are calling that function. Callee means which function will be called. Okay, so when we look at the example, we will see, we will use these terms again, caller and callee. Also the arguments which A sends to B are called actual parameters. So inside the A, we are calling B. So B will be using some parameters inside A. So from where we are calling B, there whatever parameters we are passing, they are called as actual parameters. That is the parameters that are part of caller. Means inside the caller function, I will be having the parameters, the actual values to be processed or passed. That is called as actual parameters, and the parameters of B are called formal parameters. So when it is being called, when B is being called, it will go to B. B is a separate storage area, and what parameters are there within that B function, that is called as formal parameters. So actual parameters will be sent from the caller, and the formal parameters are part of the called function. Okay, So once again, formal parameter, a variable and its type as they appear in the prototype of the function or method. A variable and its type as they appear in the prototype. That means like a formal parameter will be like in the last example we have written like int a. So formal parameters will also always have a variable name and its type, but actual parameters will be having a variable or an expression or a value. Like in the last example we have written like add of 10, 20. So 10, 20, they are two values. Or we can have x, y, and x will be having one value, y will be having another value. Or we can have an expression also, add of a plus b, like a plus b will be having some value, x plus y will be having some other value. So whatever be, whether it is a variable or expression or value, that will be part of the actual parameter, and the corresponding parameter present in the function definition is called as the formal parameter. It is all formal parameter is also called as dummy parameter. Just remember that name also, formal parameter or dummy parameter. So in the previous example, in our previous example, when we take our addition program, x, y, z that are passed from the main, that is called as the actual parameters, and the formal parameters which are part of the function definition, they are called as a, b and c. They are a, b and c. Okay, so these two terms are very, very important. The actual parameter is the actual value that we are passing, and formal parameter is a parameter that is used as part of the function definition, which is only used for processing that function. In the main program, from the function where we are calling that function, there won't be any effect on this formal parameter. It is only applied to the body of the function definition itself. Okay, now let us move to the next concept, that is called as pass by value. Pass by value. So last example was also similar to pass by value. There are two types of parameter passing. One is called as pass by value, and second one is called as pass by reference. So pass by reference and pass by value. So normal case, now we are using only pass by value concept, because we are in our normal traditional programming, we are directly trying to pass the value, and the values will be received at the formal parameter of the function definition, and that will be processed, and some value will be returned back to the caller function. So we are always trying to pass some value. Value may be assigned to a variable that can be passed, or value may be taken from an expression that may be passed, or we can have the direct value that can also be passed. Pass by reference is actually by passing the address. That is by passing the address only. Now passing the address or dealing with addresses is actually done by using a concept called as pointers. So normally pass by reference is done by the help of pointers, and for passing array and all, we are using pointer concept by specifying the name of the array. Now later we will see how we can pass an array as argument. All these will be discussed later. Now just understand there are two types of parameter passing methods. One is pass by value, and second one is by pass by reference. Pass by value, direct value, and pass by reference, we are passing the address rather than the exact value. Okay, so what is happening with pass by value? A copy of actual parameter is passed to the formal parameter. So if I am passing 10, 20, a copy of this 10 and 20 will be passed to the corresponding formal parameter. Then that copy will be processed inside the function definition and some value will be returned back to the either return or no return, that is return or the control will be coming back to the caller function. So as a result, any changes or modification happen to formal parameter, if any changes happen to the formal parameter, won't reflect back to actual parameter because we are passing a copy only. That copy will be so this is the place where I am passing 10, 20 and this is the function where it will be received through some variables like a, b, that is part of formal parameter. It will do some processing, so there won't be any effect. So if any changes happen to a and b here in the function definition, that won't be affected on this area. That won't be, we are simply passing 10 and 20, or I am passing x and y for example. X and y, the current value will be passed to the function. Now the x value, whichever value is being passed, will be assigned to a and b, and it will be doing some processing and that will be returned back. But after this, assume that this a will be changed to some other value, then b will be changed to some other value, that won't be returned back to the parameter. So there is no change on these variables or values. A copy is passed to here and that value will be processed and we are getting some result, and result is given back to the caller. Or if you are having any changes affected on this a and b after receiving this value, won't be reflected on this caller function. We will see that in an example. We will see one program called as swapping of two numbers. What is happening with swapping of two numbers? Let us see. Our aim was to swap two numbers. I am trying to use a function. Let us see what will happen with this program. Okay. Now first of all, just remember that we were using one one header file is there. Now as I have mentioned, normally we are using a function declaration with any program that uses function. But many compilers are not they are not always insisting you to use this function declaration. Some of the C compilers, so there are various versions of C. Some of the compilers, they are asking for you to compulsorily enter the function declaration, and many other compilers, they are not insisting you to use this function declaration. By seeing the function and function definition itself, they will automatically understand the details like what is the return type, what is the name, and what are the parameters that the function is expecting. So function declaration is not required for all the compilers. So if we are using some compiler, that depends on the compiler also. So there are various versions of C like C99, C11, and various versions are there, and on various versions they are following various compilers also. Okay, but normally it is always better to use function declaration, function definition, and function call. But for some compilers, if we are not using function declaration, that will also be accepted. Just remember this point also. Last class I have mentioned about a function declaration is always preferable. That is already there in the structure of a function program. But some situation like if I am calling a function from one program and the function is written in some other file. So in our previous example and all, the function definition and function call both are part of the same file. But if the function definition was written on a separate file, that situation and all, we can have the declaration of the function. If we are normally when we write simple programs, simple application programs, we will write the function definition and the caller function together as a single program. In that situation, it is not compulsory for using the function declaration. Just remember that also. If you use function declaration, that is also not an issue. Okay. Now let us see in the following examples. We are not using declarations. Just remember why it is not so compulsorily. compulsory. So don't bother about that. We will see the exact logic of the program swap. So for example, x10 and y20. So how we will be doing swapping? X value move to y and y value move to 10. So we will be using a temporary variable, temporary equal to x, then x equal to y, then y is equal to 10. This is the logic for swapping by using a temporary variable. Okay, now it's y is assigned to x and x value that is stored in temporary variable is assigned to y. Now the value of x will be 20 and y will be 10. Okay, so this is the swapping process. Now we will see how we can do that by using a function. Now so here we are having the function definition here, but before that we will start from the main. From the main we are declaring two variables x and y, integer variables, that is for entering two numbers, scan of %d x and y, address of x and y, that is for reading the values of x and y. The user will be reading the values. Now printf before swapping x equal to y equal to. So if I am reading 10 as x and 20 for y, so it will be printing like 10 comma 20. How it is given, this format to be followed, x equal to 10, y equal to 10, that format this will be printed. Now I am calling a function swap of x comma y, swap of x comma y. So swap is a function, a name given, then I am passing x is having the value 10, y is having value 20. This is actually passed by value. We are passing the value. I am passing 10 and 20. That is to be processed there within the function. So while making this call, it will go and search for the location where the function swap is being defined. The call will go to this particular location. Okay, then we will see that. Then after calling that, again I am trying to print the values x and y. The same statement I am repeating after swapping. X equal to what is the value, y equal to what is the value. So we will be expecting that I will be getting x is equal to 20 and y is equal to 10. That value might be exchanged. So that is our aim actually. But we will look at the swap function now. Swap x comma y. Now it is defined as int swap. Why this int is given? Because the swap is going to return some value. Swap is going to return some value. Okay, so in this case, if we are not going to return anything back here, in this case even we can avoid this also. If we are using some return type, the problem is we should have the return statement. So I am simply modifying that as void now. It is not being returning any value. Okay, if I am using int here, I should have a return statement here. If nothing to be returned here, I can simply write return 0. It will go back to the main column. Okay, so it is calling the function swap. Now void is the type, swap is the name, then these are the formal parameters, int a comma int b. So if somebody is calling swap, the first value it must receive is an integer. Okay, here it is correct. Second value it must receive is an integer. This is also correct. If the function name and parameters are matching, it will enter into the body of this particular function. Now I am declaring a variable temp inside this. Temp is equal to a is equal to b is equal to temp. That swap logic. Okay, so normally what will happen after the execution of swap, the control will again come back to this location just after the swap. So I am calling swap of x comma y. 10 and 20 will be passed. So 10 will be here. Just listen. 20 will be with b. So a is equal to 10 and b is equal to 20. Then inside this int temp is equal to a. 10 is assigned to temp. 10 is assigned to temp. Then a is equal to b. So whatever be there in the b will be assigned to a. Now a will become 20. Then b is equal to temp. So what is there in temp? That is a. Now, that means b will be having the value 10. Now this a and b, these values are being swapped. These values are being swapped. That is very clear. Okay. Now swapping is actually being done. But swapping is being done between these two formal parameters. Swapping is being done locally within the function swap between these two variables a and b. Control will come back to the main. Then I am printing printf after swapping. X is equal to, you may expect 10 comma 20. 20 comma 10, but the value will be like 10 comma 20 again, because I am calling swap of x comma y, swap of 10 comma 20. It is simply copying this x into this location for a. It is assigned to a. Similarly, this y value will be simply copying into this b. A copy is passed to this area. Just remember, a copy of this one is passed. Not exactly this one. A copy of this is being passed, and that copy is being processed, and copy is being swapped. That is why even after calling this swap of x comma y, we will get the same answer, because here x and y remains the same. Here x and y remains the same. So that is one issue related to the passed by value. Okay, so the swap program we will see later when we discuss about pointers. So in this situation we can have the usages of pass by reference. So this is an issue actually. When we are passing these values, only the copies are being passed. Now we can do one thing. If you want to have an exchange here in this area, just after this statement, I can write printf percentage d what we can write percentage d means the exchange value, like we will modify it as like I cannot write here x, right, because I am exchanging there a equal to percentage d. I will put a slash t, then I will write b equal to percentage d, then I will print a comma b. Okay, so I am printing a is equal to a, b is equal to b. Now in this, if we are executing this statement, the result will be like after swapping. See, while calling this swap, it will print a is equal to 20, b is equal to 10. So the entire result will be x equal to 10, y equal to 20, a equal to 20, b equal to 10. Then again, what about this one? X equal to 10, y equal to 20. If you want to simply show the result over there, we can use this statement, but I cannot use x is equal to, I cannot write ab. That way also, swapping, just for showing the result, we can write that format. Printf x is equal to, I am giving a comma b. A value is assigned to x, b value is assigned to s, because this is only printing statement. I can use x here, even if you are not having x variable here. This is within double quotes. Okay, so that way if you wish to show, just show the reverse swapped mode, we can use this printf, but this is not preferred. That's why we are using what you say, pass by reference. So this is the drawback. When we are passing a copy, it will go to this location. That is enough. Some situation when we are passing this value, do some operation, and if you are getting some result on this, just return that result into this area, because here swapping is the operation. I want to have both values, so I cannot return two values in the case of C. I can return only one. For a function at a time, we can return only, the entire function can return only one value at a time. Maybe sometimes based on some condition we can write different return statements, but for an entire function it can return only one value. So swapping, how we can assign these two values into a single variable for return, that is also not possible. So why I am using this swap program is just for mentioning, while passing the actual parameter into the formal parameter, these values are simply copies. These copies are sent to the function definition, and copies are being processed. There won't be any effect on this exact x and y here. Hope it is clear. Just read it clearly, try to work out on this, and you will clearly understand what is that copy. Okay, so it was given in the previous heading, it was given like a copy of actual parameter is passed to the formal parameter. Okay, now just remember that is the problem with pass by value. Now in the remaining programs you will see the pass by value concepts are being used mostly. Okay, now this is the output. Enter the numbers 10, 20. Before swapping, x is 10, y is 20. After swapping, x is 10, again y is equal to 20. Okay, so swapping does not take place. Okay, I have given that the same thing that I have already explained. After reading the value of x and y, x is equal to 10, y is equal to 20. Okay, then during swap call, so this is x and this is y. This 10 x value is assigned to a, this is a, that is copied. Then y value 20 is copied to b. Okay, now after that, after the swap call, now the value of x still remains 10, but a is 20. The value of x remains 20, but b is changed to 20. Okay, so these are only, so this portion, this is the input received on the parameter, and this is the output produced on the function definition, that is with the formal parameters a and b. But this is the caller x and y while calling, x and y even after calling that function it remains the same. That is the difference between pass by value. And for overcoming this program we can use pass by reference concept by using pointers. We will see later. I hope the idea is clear. Now we will move to the next topic, that is various types of user defined functions. Now we have seen there are two types of functions, one is built-in function and second one is user defined function. Now let us see what are the different types of user defined functions. User defined functions are the functions defined by the user and that can be used by our program, that can be called by our program. Okay, so there are four categories of user defined functions. We will see one by one with some simple examples. First category is no arguments and no return. Arguments means parameters. I have already mentioned that. No arguments and no return value. So while writing the function, we don't have any parameters being passed and there is no return value also. We can write a function like that also, that depends on the requirement. So you will have a function to read two numbers and print its sum. Just read two numbers and print its sum. I will be defining the function as void add. So void indicates there is no return, add is the name of the function, and no parameters are specified. There is no formal parameter also, because we are not going to deal with this formal parameters that is received from the means the caller. That is not required. That situation we can use this concept, and if it is not returning anything, we can use void. Remember, in our swap program I have modified that into void. Okay, now let us see the body of add. Let us see the body of add. In the add, we are declaring it is just like an independent program in the a comma b comma sum, in the a comma b comma sum, just like a normal summation. Printf, enter the values of a and b. Scanf, %, ampersand a comma b. We are reading two values, for example 10 and 20 will be taken from the keyboard. Sum is equal to a plus b, the variable. Now sum will be having the result printf sum. So sum will be having the value 30. So what we are doing with our main program, this is only the function definition. In our main program, in this body, I'll simply call add. That's all, semicolon. This body will be executed. I am not passing any parameter. Automatically it will execute like an independent program when it is being called. Then after the completion, there is no return statement. Return type is void, so no value will be returned back to the main program. It will continue. That means whenever we are calling add, it will go here. Then after the completion, the control will come back to the next statement after the call, and it will continue with the remaining statements. Okay, so first category is no arguments and no return value. This concept can be clearly, it is very clear. Similar examples also you can try out. Okay, now let us see that second category. Second category is no arguments and a return value. There is a return. We are not passing any parameters, but we are returning a value. Okay, so you will see the same program, read two numbers and return its sum. We'll modify the same program. So this is the definition. There is a return type int add empty parenthesis. So there is a return type. That means this function must return a value. What type of value? An integer value must be returned. And add is the name of function, and it is not receiving any value also. Then the same body in the a comma b comma sum. Enter the values of a and b, scan a and b, sum is equal to a plus b. Rather than printing that sum here, what I am doing, I am returning sum. This value will be returned. This sum will be returned to the main program. So this is the main program, and inside the main, this is the main, and inside the main I am calling what is the function name? Add. It will call add. Now normally add semicolon, this is returning a value, so it can be assigned locally into some other variable. S is equal to add. It will call add. Then while calling add, it will receive two values from user, and it will sum that, and sum is being returned, and sum will be returned through this function, this value, and that is assigned to another variable s, and this s can be printed here. S is equal to that sum value. This is the way in which we are using a function with no arguments and one return value. Okay, so you can choose any option according to your request. So first one was no argument, no return. Second one is no arguments and return value. There is a return. Okay, I hope it is clear. Now we will move to the next program. We are having arguments but no return value. The opposite of the previous one. We are having arguments but no return values. So we will take a function to take two arguments and print their sum. Okay, so program will be easier now. Look at the program. So for void, because there is no return type, add function name. Now int a comma int b, the formal parameters are written like int a. So in this add function it expects an integer value as the first parameter, and that will be assigned to a. Second parameter, again it expects an integer value, and that is assigned to the variable b. And after the summation I don't want to return any value. Now inside the body I can simply have a variable int sum is being declared is equal to a plus b. You can declare it separately and you can do a plus b, or you can do it together also. Int sum is equal to a plus b. So this a and b will be acting as a local variable here. Just like we are declaring a variable inside main, inside add we are declaring variables a and b. It is equivalent to that. Okay, if you want to have some extra variable, that can be declared separately, that is sum here. Sum is equal to this a. So whatever values you are receiving on a and b will be added, and we are simply printing it there inside the function itself. Print of sum is equal to sum. So how we can make a call to this program? From the main I will be calling add of 10 comma 20, add of 10 comma 20 semicolon. That is only required. Whenever we are calling this from main, the control will go here. 10 is assigned to a, 20 is assigned to b, then inside sum is equal to 10 plus 20, printf sum is equal to 30. That's all. This place will be replaced with this code. This code will be executed on this particular location. Then the control will come back after the add statement. Okay, so here the exact replacement of the definition of that function. Now return means it will be processing something, and it requires only, if nothing is to be printed and all, just do calculation and return. Only that return will be given back to the caller. So this is an example where we are having arguments passed, but there is no return value. Okay. Now next one, the fourth category, arguments passed with return value. Arguments passed with return value. So there will be arguments and there will be return values. So again, a function that takes two arguments and return their sum. Even the function becomes easier now. Return type is integer, add int a comma int b. Now I am simply writing return a plus b, or else I can give like int s is equal to a plus b. Just write this one, int s is equal to a plus b. Then I can simply write return s. Return s. That is also correct. So what will happen if I am calling a function? So I will be calling a function like here x is equal to add of 10 comma 20. X is equal to add of 10 comma 20. 10 will be assigned to this a, 20 will be assigned to this variable b. Then s is equal to a plus b. 10 and 20 will be added. Then return s, because this function returns s. Then this value will be returned to this function, and that will be assigned to the variable x, and we just try to print the value of x here. And function with arguments and also return value. This is the way in which the function definition can be written, and this is the way in which we can make a call to the function with arguments and return value. So very important, these four categories of function, user defined functions, function with no arguments passed and no return value, function with no arguments passed but return value, then arguments passed but there is no return value. Similarly, there are arguments as well as return value. So depending on the situation, depending on the application, we can use any of these four categories of user defined functions. These are the different ways in which we can write user defined functions. Now let us see some examples related to these functions. Generally, we will be following any of the above four methods, depends on the programs. So first program we are going to discuss is to perform arithmetic operations using function. We just want to perform various arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction, etc. by using function. So earlier we have done that directly by using a variable and by doing addition of two different variables. Now by using function, how we can implement the same concept. So we will be writing functions for all of these operations separately. Okay, now just look at the program. This is the first function, int add of int a comma b, int a comma int b, return a plus b. This is for add. This is like there is a return type and parameters also, just similar to the previous one. The next one is int diff, a return type. Diff is the name of function. It receives two parameters, return a minus b. It can be separately calculated and that value can also be returned, or it can be done together also. Just remember that also. Then int mul, int a comma int b, return a int b, the same format only. Then float div, because division normally returns a float value, that is why the return type of div function is float. Int a comma int b, return a by b. Now that will be typecast forcefully because we are doing division on two integer values. So integer by integer will be producing, division will be producing a float value, and we need to assign this into a float variable. That is why the type is being cast forcefully. The integer value that we are normal simple a by b will only return the integer part of that division. Now if you want to get the entire float portion, that is to be converted by using typecasting. That is why we are adding this float here. Otherwise also you will get the result, but only the integer portion will be returned. Now next one is int mod, that is for finding modulus. In the mod of int a comma int b, return a mod b. Return type, it receives two parameters, return a mod b semicolon. It will be returned back to the main. So similarly you can define any number of functions. You can define any number of functions as required by your application. Before the main itself, before the caller itself, we can define all these functions. Okay, not only one, we can have any number of functions can be defined. Now let us look at the main program. What is happening? I am declaring two variables, void main, two variables x and y. Enter the values. I am entering scan the value x and y. Now printf sum is equal to %d add of x comma y. This program is given in a simple format. If you want, you can have separate variables being declared for all these sum, difference, multiply, division, modulo, and assign this add of x comma y into that variable, and the variable can be printed. Now everything is done within the single statement. Printf sum is equal to %d add of x comma y. So it will go to add function with two values x and y that is entered by the user, and the add is returning the value that will be available here. When it is directly given inside the printf, we don't need to assign this into a variable, but if it is part of some expression, this is to be assigned to a variable when we are having a return value. If you are not having a return value, we can directly simply write add of x comma y. Okay, now it is part of printf even if it is returning a value. Printf add of x comma y is part of printf, so I can directly write add of x comma y. So whatever value is returned here will be printed. Similarly, printf difference is equal to % diff of x comma y, multiply mul of x comma y, division div of x comma y, modulo mod of x comma y. So simply for getting all these operations, what we are doing in our main caller, we are using this simply by calling the function name and passing the actual values. So functions they are defined only once. Any number of times we can make call to all these functions. If you want to find out some other values addition, again I can write that, get some other value, then again call add, get some other value, just call mul, they again add some other value, read some other value, call some other function. So any number of times this function can be called. I hope it is clear. The logics are simple. Now we are focusing on only the usage of function. Here no need to explain about all other details regarding the logic creation and all. So just look at the output also. I am entering the values 21, 8, sum equal to 29, difference equal to 13, multiply, division, modulo. See, division is converted into float as it is typecast there in the function definition. Okay, hope it is also clear. Now we'll look at one more program. A program to display prime numbers up to a range using function. We have already in the initial modules we have already seen about how to check a given number is prime number, and also up to a given limit just get the prime numbers. By using for loop also we can find out the prime numbers up to a range of means up to 10 all the prime numbers to be displayed, up to 100 all the prime numbers to be displayed. We have seen that also. Now this program can be easier if you are using a user defined function. Okay, so before moving into the program, just see the comment is given like function takes an argument n, that is the maximum limit up to what, up to 10. For example, I need to display all the prime numbers 2, 3, 5 etc., that is to be displayed up to 10. If n is prime, it will return 1. So if I am passing that number, it will be returning 1, otherwise it will be returning 0. So that is the number that we are passing. Just look again, this is we'll look at the logic one. Inside the loop I am checking for each number. So this is not it is not like this is the maximum limit. Limit will be there, up to that all the numbers will be checked for prime numbers. So for example, for I equal to 1 to 10, 1 is to be checked, 2 is to be checked, 3 is to be checked. So each time we are calling function only. So first time 2 is the parameter, so 2 will be checked. If it is prime, it will return 1, otherwise it will return 0. Next time I am passing 3. If it is prime, it is returning 1, otherwise it will return 0. So each time, so if 100 is the number, I need to call the same prime number checking 100 times for all the numbers. So that can be reduced by calling a simple function for checking the prime. Okay, now we'll start the program. We'll look at the program from the main first, because already we know the logic of prime number calculation, prime number check. So we'll look at the function main first. From the main we'll go back to the exact definition, where we are following the basic logic of prime number check. That logic is already clear, already familiar. Okay, so this is the main, where this is the main, and I am declaring two variables n and I. Enter the range. I am reading n, so up to n I need to check each number, up to n each number to be checked. So I am using a for loop here. For I is equal to 2, I less than equal to n. So 1 is not considered here for prime. So normally 1 is not considered as a prime number. So prime number means, once again, a number that is divisible by itself and by 1. Exactly 2 division only possible means that is a prime number. If any other number in between, if it is possible, that means that cannot be considered as a prime number. So I will be taking the values from 2 to n up to 10. So if 10 is the number, from 2 to 10. From 2 to 10, every number to be verified. Every number to be verified that whether it is prime or not. Okay, so that is the logic we are going to use here. Now inside the loop I am simply writing an if statement, if check prime of I. So what is this? Normally if a equal to 1, that is the condition that we are using. Similarly, if check prime of I, so this is a function call. If check prime of I, so check prime and I we are passing is 2 is equal to 1, means if this check prime of I function returns the value 1, it will print that value. That is a prime number. That means first time 2 will be passed as the parameter of check prime. Then 2 will be checked inside the body of check prime. And if that is returning 1, it will print I here. This is happening with the main program. Once again, then next iteration, if 3, check prime of 3, it will go to the check prime body. I will explain that. It will go to check prime body. If it is returning 1, it will print that. Otherwise, it will just go for next iteration up to 10. So each number. So what we are passing here is here we are passing the range, this n. Just remember we are using one more n. Don't be confused. This is the maximum range, and up to that range from 2 every number to be checked for prime. So first iteration check prime will be called, second iteration again check prime 3 will be called, next time check prime 4 will be called, up to check prime 10 it will be called, and each time while calling go and execute that. If there is a return, that will be returning back here, then that return value will be compared with 1. If it is 1, that means there it is returning 1 when it is prime, it will be printed. This is the logic used here. Now the problem can be written easier, because up to any range of value we can easily use the same logic. So if I set the limit as 10 or if I set the limit as 1000, for all the cases the same program is enough. The same check prime of up to that number will be continued by using this iteration as well as by calling this check prime program. I mean check prime function. Okay, so this is the main loop. So inside the loop with 9 iteration from 2 to 9, 9 times check prime will be called. So all the 9 numbers will not be printed because some numbers are not prime, some numbers are prime. Okay, so otherwise this is not required like this way. You can simply do check prime of I separately, equal to some value can be assigned. If that value is equal to 1, print f I. That is also possible, but this is done easily by using a single statement. Don't confuse that it will be given only in this way. It should be given in only this way. That is not, that depends. If you want to have more readability on this program, you can do like check prime of I, that is assigned to some other variable. Then if that variable is equal to 1, print f I. Then continue with the next iteration. Okay, now what will happen when it passes check prime of 2 or check prime of 3? For example, check prime of 3 we will see. Check prime of 3, what will happen? It will go to the check prime body. This is the body. Just look at the function definition. An integer return type, check prime int n. Here don't confused with the previous n. This is an n, that is a local or the formal parameter used with check prime function. That is a separate function. So we don't need to bother about that initial range n. That is different. That is part of a different function. This is part of another function called as check prime. So here only thing is it has declared, or this formal parameter expected one integer value. That's all. So I am passing 3 means now n3 will be assigned. The value assigned is 3. So here inside this body we are going to follow the same logic of prime number check. in the flag equal to 0 initial value we are setting, then we are having an I, because 3 to be checked up to 3 we need to have division, means each number to be divided. We need to find out whether there is any more division possible with this 3. So here we are using the same previous prime number loop for I equal to 2, I less than equal to n by 2. We have already seen why it is n by 2. We don't need to go up to n. Up to 3 we don't, if you are using 9, up to 9 we don't need to go. Only up to the half only we require to verify whether it is divisible. Other things are not divisible, already it is clear. Okay, so for I equal to 2, I less than equal to n by 2, I plus plus. If it is so, if n mod I equal to 0, flag 1, break. So 3, in the case of 3, for I equal to 2, what is this? For I equal to 2, I less than equal to n by 2, and what is n by 2? 3 by 2, that is 1. Okay, so there itself what will happen? Condition fails. Okay, there itself condition fails. The loop will be terminated and will be going out. Look at this first case, 3. If 3 is the case, I equal to 2, I less than equal to 1, that is wrong. So it will be exiting from the loop. Then come here, if flag equal to 0, initial value of flag is 0. Now also flag is equal to 0, the function returns 1. If it is returning 1, what we are checking there? Check prime of I. If it is equal to 1, we are printing it as prime, else it will return 0. So the opposite case, for example 4, if you are considering 4, what will happen? 4 by 2 up to 2, already it is clear, it can be divisible by 1, 2 and 4, so it is not a prime. So automatically n mod I equal to 0 will happen, and flag will be assigned to, flag value assigned will be 1. Then it will be breaking, and now it is not 0, right? Else case it will be returned 0. That means if it is not a prime, it will return 0. The function will return 0. Okay, so these two you can modify. So for example, if you initialize this as flag is equal to 1, now according to the condition here we can set flag is equal to 0, then break. Then here you can write if flag is equal to 1, return 1. If flag is equal to 0, return 0. That is also possible. But don't be confused, that must be matched with the logic of the program. Okay, so this is the exact logic that is used in our normal prime check. Only thing is, we are given a range limit up to 100, each number to be checked for prime. So we are simply calling check prime function. Inside a loop we are calling check prime for 100 times if the range is 100. Each time that number will be verified. How it will be verified as check prime? It will be checking, dividing the number starting from 2 to that number by 2. Up to that number, go for all the division, and if we get a modulus value as 0, set the flag as 1 and then break. Otherwise, we are not changing the flag value. Now if you are not changing the flag value, it will be returning 1. That means it is a prime number. Otherwise it is returning 0. It is not a prime number. Okay, so this is the logic. Just look at the way in which we are using this function. Only this body is exactly similar to the normal main function prime check code. Now only thing is, it is written as a user defined function with a return type and a parameter being received. And then we are having a main program where we are receiving a range, reading that range, then up to that range, that's all. We are using a loop because we are not checking for a single number. A range of values will be checked, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 10. All the numbers to be verified. So inside the loop we are calling this check prime for I number of times. Means check prime of I up to n. So each number will be compared with 1. Accordingly, if it is getting 1, it will be printed as prime. So this is the sample output. Enter the range 25. So from 25 will be starting from 2 to 25 divided by 2. That is up to 12. It will be doing division, and accordingly it will be getting all these values as the prime number less than 25. Okay, so that is the example. One simple hereafter when we study functions, we are not bothering about the logic. Similar programs are already being covered before. Now here we are only focusing on how this can be implemented. So what is the structure, how the function can be written separately for processing the same operation. So you just remember, you can do all the operations like not only prime number, even, odd, or sum of n number, or all the programs. If you want to use a function, we can follow this pattern, the logic, because earlier sessions we were discussing on more logics, but here logics almost same, but the usages of functions. So functions actually makes the programmer to write the programs easily, because if you want to do the same process repeatedly, we can replace that by using by defining a function separately, and simply by calling that function we can do all these activities. So that's it for now. You may work out some more programs related to the functions. You can refer some textbook. You can also Google and look at the various function and functions related programs. Okay, and in the next session we will see one topic called as a special category of function. The same function, the usage will be same, but a different concept related to the function, that is called as recursive functions, that is used in C. So I am winding up now, and let us see in the next session. Thank you.